Started right.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show, ladies and gentlemen. I am, of course, your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Wednesday. Let me see. What is today's date? It is January 25th, 2017. Thank you so much for joining us. It is always a pleasure. I don't take it for granted. I love talking with you guys, and I love getting your feedback. The phone lines will be open probably sooner rather than later. 857-600-0518 if you want to contribute to the conversation. Trump this, Trump that, Trump has lost. Well, I was going to say Trump has lost his mind, but that wouldn't be completely accurate. Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's showing us. I think he gets a kick out of the idea of being as terrible as we imagine him being. Yeah, that's I think that's exactly. I think Trump is trying to prove to the world that he is going to be as horrible as he promised he would be. And that being said, that means we have like an entire night to discuss Trump sending in the troops to Chicago, Trump with the Muslim registry and the refugee ban, Trump with, he's just with the EPA, Trump with, he literally is doing the most draconian steps he can, all with executive orders, an onslaught of executive orders. And it's just, I can't say it's even fascinating to me as much as it is expected that Republicans who decried President Obama over his executive orders are all lining up like little children behind Trump while he issues all of these. Again, the best word for it is draconian, even Machiavellian executive orders, fundamentally changing the face of America through executive orders. So we'll discuss that. I want to get your input, your feedback. But before I do, I want to go down the line and thank several new patrons. Every day we get new patrons. So thank you all the existing patrons. I want to thank Mike for becoming a patron. Howdy doody. I love the name. Thanks for becoming a patron. And Jacob, well, I don't want to say your last name, but Jacob H. Thank you for becoming a patron. We couldn't do it without you. There will be a full hour bonus show on Friday that patrons only get access to. So definitely want you guys to go over there and enjoy the bonus content as we move forward with the Progressive Army and everything else that we are trying to do. I'm trying to load up a clip that was sent to me by C.T. Dennis on Twitter, a conversation that he had with Richard Wolff. I haven't had a chance to screen it, but from what he was describing to me, I think it's right up our alley. So hopefully if I can get that loaded up, I think it'll be a great clip for us to discuss in the show about socialism and racism. I'm always interested in that conversation, and especially in the world we live in with neoliberals trying to convince us that it's one or the other. It's either economic issues or race issues. But I want to give him a thanks at the top of the show for at least sending it over to me. And if I can get it in, we most certainly will. But with that being said, let's talk about Donald J. Trump, your president, our president. We can always say not my president, but the reality of it is Donald Trump is our president, and we're stuck with him for 4 years unless he does something to get impeached, which, it's a possibility. But the first thing, Donald Trump is looking forward to opening up secret prisons across the globe. Again, CIA prisons. This is according to Reuters. Trump may reinstate secret CIA black site prisons. According to U.S. officials. So he is going to order a review which could lead to the reinstatement of black sites, secret CIA prisons where torture and other obscene acts could occur without anyone at all being aware. Of course, these prisons were closed by Obama. Bush used them during his administration to hold prisoners and engage under the radar activities. And quite frankly, it is something that has gone on in America for a while. President Obama put, on paper, we did away with them, which I'm sure really did mean that some of them closed. I don't want to just always doubt everything President Obama told me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So the CIA black sites were located in Poland, Lithuania, Romania, Thailand, and Afghanistan. The document that is based on, there's a document that was released to the Washington Post. Sean Spicer, the press secretary for President Trump, said that the draft was not a White House document. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan said that the Trump administration did not write the document that was leaked to the Washington Post. And he said, quote, my understanding is that this is Paul Ryan. My understanding is that this was written by somebody who worked on the transition team before, who's not on the Trump administration. This is not a product of the administration. According to John McCain, he said, quote, the president can sign whatever executive orders he likes, but the law is the law. We are not bringing back torture to the United States of America. And that's all well and good. But just as easily as we brought it in, and just as easily as President Obama signed it out, Donald Trump can bring it back. But more importantly, right, it's the intent. The intent to, signal to the world that we have a new cowboy in the White House. Ultimately, that's what he's trying to signal. Because, what tangible benefits can be derived from this that we're not currently getting. And there's, of course, the debate of whether or not you can actually get something out of torture, but the bigger question is not even a question. Here's where we are. We are in a place where Donald Trump is trying to deliver on every fleeting campaign promise that he ever gave. Even when it's based on erroneous information, erroneous data, and flat out lies. Donald Trump is trying in 100 days to at least signal to his base that he's going to do all of the terrible things that he promised them, that they jumped for joy and with glee and satisfaction to know that Donald Trump is going to bring back waterboarding because he thinks it's a good idea. Trump's order, his draft order, would authorize a review of interrogation techniques that U.S. officials could use on terrorism suspects. It would keep the detention center at the U.S. Naval Base at Guantanamo Bay open, and it would allow new prisoners to be sent there. According to Amnesty International, again, this is Reuters, they were quoted as saying, this is an extremely disturbing and outrageous attempt to open the door again to systematic torture and secret detention. This is the Trump administration making good on its most worrisome comments through the campaign. Exactly the case. And Amnesty International gets it. I mean, at a certain point, you have to look at the psychology of this, right? I'm not a psychologist. I just pretend to be one on TV. But you have to look at the desire of a large and vocal group of Trump supporters who didn't vote for him for economic promises, who didn't vote for him because they hated Hillary Clinton so much, which they did, but that's not the primary thing. There is a large contingency in Donald Trump's support base, his base, that want the most nefarious version of America towards anyone that they do not approve of. And I was going to say anyone who's not American, but it doesn't stop at just you being American or not. It is, are you in the approved group of Americans. And that group of Donald Trump supporters, they are lined up ready, celebrating acts like this potential executive order, this potential policy from Donald Trump. It's merely fodder for them because there's a group of Donald Trump supporters who just get off on treating people miserably. I never forget, I was at a Tea Party rally, Tea Party debate rather, down in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I presented that idea to them. And I said, I'm not going to call all of Donald Trump supporters racist, which I think is a gross overgeneralization. I like to deal in nuance. So I'm not going to call you guys in here racist. But I will, and this is what I told them. I said, I will say this. There are people who support Donald Trump who actually get pleasure out of him insulting people, pleasure out of him being racist or borderline racist or saying hateful things. They get a kick out of him, of the idea of him banning people or bringing back torture. And they get a kick out of, because to them, it's a game. And little did I know, the gentleman who was in the debate with me, sitting right next to me, I did not expect this, but he raised his hand. He said, yep, that's me. That's exactly what he wanted. And he used the example of when, and I'm not a fan of Elizabeth Warren, but he used the example of Elizabeth Warren. He said when Donald Trump called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas or a fake Pocahontas, that's when he knew that was his guy. That's when he knew he was going to vote for Donald Trump. And the reason it matters is because now this type of thinking is shaping policy. And this is what America's going to look like because there's very little, if anything, that we can do to stop it. So we are getting ready to completely transform America, not back into what George W. Bush did, not taking any guilt or shame off of President Bush, but this is a move towards doing this for sport. Now, you can list all the nefarious reasons that they did it. The Dick Cheney wanted to profit off of it. They're all war criminals. Yes. But now we're getting into an era where this is like the, effing gladiators, where this is a sport to them, where the audience is getting pleasure out of the misery that Donald Trump can cause other people. This is a game. They are sadistic, and they deserve to be pushed back into the dregs of society. I'm sorry. Anyone who gets pleasure out of a policy like this, which is not going to enhance our security, it's not going to advance our interests. It is, in fact, going to undermine our interests because we constantly get blowback from our actions overseas. We constantly get ramifications 5 or 10 years down the road, if not 5 or 10 months down the road, from the shit that we do. So it's not going to enhance our security. It's actually going to undermine our security. And we're doing it all for fucking sport. This is the kind of America that we're going to have for the next 4 years. And all I can say is all we can do is try to survive it and then undo it after we get rid of Donald Trump, if things are undoable at that point. But the first strike from Donald Trump is to let's bring back the secret bases, the secret prisons, rather, so that we can torture people. Why? Not because it's going to make us safer, not because it's going to enhance our security, it's going to undermine us. Why? But because his supporters enjoy that kind of shit. And they think it's fun and games. Ha ha, kiki. 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. Let's take the first caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hello, this is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna. What's on your mind?
I agree with you on, they're doing it for sport, but my other main concern is, just they're bringing back Mother Registry. They're worried about the black sites. They're going to basically be banning all refugees. They have Mike Pompeo. They have what's his name, John Bolton, Mattis, and and not only that, he's basically letting Netanyahu do. He's basically kidnapping Netanyahu's ring. What's all going to that lead up to?
I mean, In the
What has
extreme, in the extreme, I mean, it really is creating the perfect environment for even greater radicalization of people. I mean, we're setting ourselves up for some massive blowback in the international community. But go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah. And not only that, I also feel that it's also setting up out maybe 6 months, a year down the road, we're going to a war with Iran. You got
Yeah,
all those, they need people to fill up those black sites. So
yeah. I can't
They need to
disagree
be-
with that, right? Thanks for the call, Brianna. I don't disagree with that, mainly because they are looking to undo the Iran deal, the nuclear deal, right? They are looking to give Iran the ability, not only the ability, but the impetus or the driving force to go back and start pursuing their nuclear ambitions, right? I mean, they're getting rid of the deal and they're creating a volatile situation, even more volatile than it already is. So yeah, they do want a conflict with Iran. I don't see why else would they I mean, really, now I do have another reason why else they would do this. The other reason they would do it is simply just to undo anything that President Obama did. So not only are they willing to do these dangerous things internationally for sport, they're also willing to risk international stability just to try to stick it to Obama. I got bad news for you, Republicans. Obama's gone. He's gone surfing. He's gone golfing. He doesn't give a shit about you guys anymore. I mean, I'm sure he cares on some level. But if you are undermining global stability, which ultimately is going to blow back in the next 4 years, right? Don't think for a second that Trump is going to get 4 years without some type of international situation, domestic situation. Like there's blowback to be had sooner rather than later. And you're willing to set up this situation perfectly so that this happens just so that you can stick it to Obama. I mean, I get the politics side of it. You're trying to play to your base. I totally get that, right? I don't agree with it because you're going to undermine the security of the United States. I get that, but you can't be that dumb. Yes, they can. But you would think that they would see past the politics, the political gain that they get, the initial political gain that they get, and ask themselves, is this good policy? And I don't think in any sensible world they can actually say that this is good policy for the long run. All they can say is this is good this is good politics for right now because he has to deliver on every fleeting campaign promise that he gave. All right, let's take one more caller on this. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question? 601, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, it's John from Mississippi.
John, long time. How's it going, my friend?
Pretty good. I have a theory as to what's going to happen, and and how Iran will actually. It's almost guaranteed that shit's going to happen somewhere in the Middle East. In that, I believe the reason that McCain and Graham and Rubio have switched on Tillerson is I think Republicans are eyeing China as being the next Cold War enemy. And if they can start proxy wars aimed at China, then everybody can walk away happy. Donald Trump and his administration gets to start war and come back and say, "Oh, well, you need a strong man," and McCain and Graham and the Republicans get to make billions off of the war machine all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry you don't hear the enthusiasm in my voice, only because you might be right. My father-in-law always, we also used to sit outside down in Florida, outside in his garage with the garage up, sipping on cognac, talking to like midnight about how every so often America is always going to find somewhere to engage in a war. No matter what, we're going to find. This year is going to be in somebody's backyard. Next year it'll be in someone else's backyard. But we're always going to find a war to get ourselves in. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
you know, it's dangerous this time, especially from America's perspective. And this is the problem with being America first and not having any clues of what's happening internationally. China could very well kick our asses in a Cold War. They're ready. I don't know what I don't know how ignorant politicians can actually be to that. But you can't just you can't look at a country that's 1.7 billion people population and say, oh yeah, we can take them on.
Well, this is a problem. This is my America first kind of attitude. I don't know that they can beat us, but I will say this: I don't think it's worth finding out. Like, why? Why do we need that? The answer is because they need to fuel. They need to put coins inside of the military industrial complex. They have to feed the machine. Thanks for the call, John. I was going to let you get the last word there, but let's keep trucking. 857-600-0518. Unfortunately, we still have more to cover about Donald Trump. I think Brianna, the first caller, mentioned this, and we were going to discuss it. Donald Trump is getting ready to institute a refugee ban. This article is from Reuters. Trump expected to order temporary ban on refugees. So he's expecting to sign, or he's signaled that he's going to sign an executive order that would ban refugees as well as legal immigrants from Syria, Yemen, the Sudan, Somalia, Libya, Iran, and Iraq. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The same 7 countries, nation states or countries, whatever you want to, the proper categorization, the same nations that we're bombing. We're getting ready to institute a ban on anyone coming from those nations. So we're contributing to the volatile situation in those nations. We're contributing to the creation of refugees, but we're not going to give them any safe harbor inside of the United States. Not that that would be a consolation prize. Not that the answer is let's continue to bomb them and then welcome them into our arms, right? We should stop the bombing, but at the same time, you have to look at the glaring hypocrisy that we're going to continue bombing the shit out of you and give you nowhere to go. So anyway, he tweeted that that it was a big day was planned for national security, and he's expected to sign the first draft of executive orders at the department. Actually, I believe he already did that today, if I'm not mistaken. So just some context. This is not the first time America has done this, right? This is not going to be something unprecedented. George W. Bush, he instituted a he suspended refugee admissions for about 3 months after 9/11. According to the chief counsel, the former chief counsel at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services for the Obama administration, they said that, quote, the president has the authority to limit refugee admissions and the issuance of visas to specific countries if the administration determined it was in the public's interest. So from a legal standpoint, it's well within his right to do this. This is where we are. All right, so Trump and Jeff Sessions, his nominee for Attorney General, they have since said that they would focus on the restrictions on countries whose migrants could pose a threat, rather than a ban on those who pose of those of a specific religion. But the sum total of it is still a focus on religion. Trump is likely to tell the State Department to stop issuing visas. He's likely to tell the State Department to stop issuing visas to people from those nations in particular. The executive order might make an exception for, quote, religious minorities who are persecuted in their home countries, presumably targeting Christians in the Middle East. So he's making an exception for Christian refugees. But we should not look at this as a ban on Islam. See how that works? So here's the thing, right? This is all going underneath this idea, right? This is the false idea that we don't do the proper amount of vetting, that we don't know who these people are coming in the United States, and that's factually untrue, right? And no matter how many times Donald Trump says this, that is 100% untrue. We have a very robust process of vetting refugees. The refugees, they're initially vetted by the UN Refugee Agency. So before the process even begins, they have to go through the UN. And only then strong candidates are chosen to move forward, which is really like less than 1%, according to some research, some data rather, less than 1% of the people who submit for refugee status to the UN are even passed on. And then once they are passed on, after they pass through the first level of vetting at the UN, the FBI, the National Counterterrorism Center, the intelligence community, the Department of Homeland Security, and the State Department all do their own vetting. On top of that, we go through a biometric security checks, and then they have to be assigned to a region. The International Organization for Migration books travel. So this is an entire process of layers and layers of vetting. So the idea that refugees are coming to America and we're not properly vetting them is just factually untrue. It's a lie. But it makes a great campaign promise, and it got him elected, and so he has to deliver on it. Actually, there's even more, right? So not only do they have to go through the FBI, they have to go through the Department of Homeland Security, they have to go through the State Department. They also have to go through U.S. Customs and Border Protections, and that, every layer of our government screens refugees before they come to the United States. But this isn't sufficient because Trump said it's not sufficient. It's insufficient because it doesn't really play well as a campaign promise to say, we're going to tighten up on our procedures. We're going to add another layer, or even to say the truth, which is we have a very robust process already. What's very easy to get clicks on, what's very easy to get support on, is fear mongering. And to say that, we need to ban until we get it sorted out. I think that was his exact words. Until we figure out what's going on over there, we need to ban people from coming over there, unless you're a Christian minority. In which case, come on over to the United States and we'll let you in. The sum total of this is a ban on Islam. And I know there's a conversation of the radicalization of Islam and Islamist fundamentalists and the real problem that exists there. But we are very capable of having both those conversations, addressing the issue, but also realizing that we have a fiercely robust process of vetting refugees. And I'm surprised a lot of times by how many people actually buy into this fear. Anyway. Because we could talk about all the other aspects of it, how realistically in the United States, we have far more reasons to be afraid of white guys named Kevin than we do Ahmed. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
So obviously we're in this situation with the right wing and the GOP, and they're just having a grand old time with this whole situation with Trump. And, sadly, this was going to happen. And, I don't really want to talk about the blame and the past. I kind of want to focus on fighting back and what we have to do. Because we have to figure out a way to do this the right way.
Right.
But then I also think that there's a situation where if we get a terrorist attack or something to that nature, and it's from a white person and not from someone that's Islam, then they could backtrack on a lot of things. And then, they want to build this wall. I don't know how they're going to really strongly get that done. I don't think Mexico's going to pay for that. And then, there's also this rumors going around that they're going to try to impeach him so he won't do too much damage, or they can get him out of here quickly. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I just think for us as progressives, we have to do what we have to do, stay on the job, and everything will be fine. But obviously, it's going to be interesting next couple of months. We'll see how it's going to work out, I guess.
Thanks for the call, Bryce. Always a pleasure. I don't know. I mean, I keep feeling as though there's nothing we can do. But if everyone who's up for a re-election in 2018 fears for their jobs because of what they're doing right now, then perhaps there is something that we can do. But the organizing has to be on such a level that it shakes them out of their confidence. Because right now they're running around like confident sons of bitches. Like they feel like there's nothing that can be done to stop them. And, technically there isn't, but there isn't except the political threat of them losing their seats. Not Trump. I'm talking about 2018. I mean, we're talking about millions of people on every issue every week going out to protest and to let them know, like targeted, right? Not just random, 750,000 people in DC. And I don't say random as if that march was random, but I'm saying in specific districts. Like if 100,000 people who are registered to vote in a district put pressure on their politician, that is a threat. That's something that we can do. But that's a massive level of organization that if we don't have, we certainly need. And that's really just to answer your question of what can we do? It's got to be on a district by district level. National marches are great and they feel great and they send a signal. But if you want somebody to feel threatened, you give me 100,000 people from a district marching in that district on a particular issue, registering to vote as they go, demonstrating the electoral power that they have, then you could bring a congressman to his knees or a congresswoman to her knees. That's got to be the strategy. Let me grab this last caller. Caller, what's on your mind? What's your name, comment, and a question?
Hi, Ben. It's Terry from LA.
Hey, Terry, how's it going? Thanks for the call.
All right. No, my question is, and I just called you just a few seconds ago, so thank you for taking my call
My
so
pleasure.
quickly. My question is, what do you think? Because you were just talking about that, mass, movement that what you just described.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just watching right before you came on, Chris Hayes, about the resist movement. They put a banner up behind the White House and everything, and they're showing how people are going to their local, you know exactly what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what do you think that's about? Based, I guess, on the indivisible thing,
Actually,
the guide and all that?
no,
Go
actually,
ahead.
no, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Give it to me. Give it to me one more time.
Oh, okay. So, I've been watching, it's been on Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow and today again. And it's a movement based on the Indivisible Guide. Do you know what that is? It's a guide on how to create.
Oh, yeah,
this
on
movement that you're
resistance.
talking about.
Yeah.
Right. And it's gotten really big to the point where they put a banner up behind the White House today, and the banner says "Resist" really big.
Mm-hmm.
So, and people
are
going to their local officials. That's it.
I'm not sure about all of the, you're talking about the indivisibleguide.com, where it's a practical guide for resisting the Trump agenda. I actually, to be honest, thanks for the call. I have not read through all of their guide, but if their guide includes organizing on a district by district level, then yes, for the most part, I co-sign on that. I have to dig into it a little bit more. I am a little leery in general about the resistance, but I'm not opposed to massive organizing at that level. Yeah, thanks for the call. Um, let's keep trucking here. 857-600-0518. I guess I could just leave up this picture of Trump because I have plenty of them, plenty of them. So Trump continues to show us exactly. Trump has continued to show us exactly the type of. I don't even know where to start with this. All right, Chicago. Let's start here. As a matter of fact, let me just show you the tweet. Let's see if I can get the tweet up on the screen. So Trump tweeted this out today. If you take a look at your screen, he said, if Chicago doesn't fix the horrible carnage going on, 228 shootings in 2017 with 42 killings, up 24% from 2016, I will send in the feds. Now, I give him credit for at least he's actually using data now. I mean, he's throwing numbers out there. I don't know how accurate they are, but, whatever. That's a big step up for Orange Julius. But all right. So there is a problem in Chicago. But how can I say this? Trump's solution is almost a non-solution. Now, let's put it in context. Let's start with some context. So Rahm Emanuel, who I think is almost as much a piece of shit as Donald Trump, but he has already requested help from the feds. But he has stated that the National Guard is out of the question, according to the Chicago Tribune. So this is not without precedent. Rahm Emanuel welcomed the offer for federal assistance to help stem all of the violence in Chicago, but he refused the offer of the using the National Guard, saying that it's antithetical, quote, it's antithetical towards helping building trust in local police. I mean, you just the idea, right? And this is why I guess there was so much hesitation in my voice up front. Like, there's something that needs to be done in Chicago, but federalizing it and essentially creating a true police state using federal forces and the threat of doing so is so far beyond the pale of anything that we've seen in America, right? It creates not only a precedent, but it creates an even more volatile situation, right? You're essentially going to make a war zone out of Chicago. And I know people say, well, it's already a war zone. Yeah. So there's a difference between people who are killing each other, citizens who are killing each other, and sitting in our armed military to police those forces. Our military, our National Guard, they're not trained to do policing operations, right? They're not trained to go in, and we see the great significant failing of our police, of our military forces to even be occupiers, right? They can't do that successfully. They're not trained to be a standing police. So you're asking for far more damage to be done by sending in the troops. I don't even like the nature of his threat, right? So instead of offering solutions, he's just making these threats saying that I'm going to essentially take over Chicago with the National Guard, right? That threat in itself should be a non-starter. But because he is now the president of the United States, we actually have to discuss the nuances of it, right? We should be able to say this is just the most ridiculous shit that we ever heard, but we actually have to discuss the ramifications of having a standing military inside of a city serving as the police force. So according to Chicago Tribune, they're connecting this tweet of Donald Trump back to Bill O'Reilly on Fox News, because Donald Trump is making policy based off of Bill O'Reilly. But he said in a segment on Tuesday night, on last night, that there's chaos in Chicago. And he concluded that, quote, President Trump can call in the National Guard because the governor won't. Sean Spicer, of course, he's dodging and deflecting. He didn't answer the question directly. But he did say this. He said, quote, there can be aid if it was requested up through the governor and through the proper channels that the federal government can provide on a law enforcement basis. But there's other aid that can be extended as well as through the U.S. Attorney's Office or other means that will ensure that the people of Chicago have the resources to feel safe. Sounds nice, but that's not really what Donald Trump is talking about. And this is the sleight of hand. You know, Donald Trump says and is going to do exactly what he's saying and what he wants to do. And Sean is sent out to be the Minister of Information. But Rahm Emanuel, he said, quote, in regards to agencies besides the National Guard that actually could be of some assistance, he said it would be more useful to, quote, to use the ATF, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. He said you send the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. He said it'd be far more useful to have more help from the FBI. All of those institutions are resources that could help them. But again, sending in the National Guard is a non-starter. And there's so many problems in this story that sending in the National Guard does not address. Now, that being said, Rahm Emanuel and the city of Chicago and the governor of Illinois, they got to figure this. They got to figure this out. They've got to do something. And you can go back and check my receipts. I've got plenty of clips addressing the issue in Chicago. And I mean, that's just me. The people on the ground in Chicago are protesting. The people on the ground are calling out Rahm Emanuel, calling out the governor. The people on the ground are the ones that are demanding that something be done. So something obviously needs to be done. But the threat, this draconian, this Machiavellian threat of occupying the city with the National Guard at the behest of the governor, but on the heels of the demands of the new president, Orange Julius, is not only not a solution, but it sets a dangerous precedent that I don't believe, if this was coming from a Democratic president, anyone would tolerate. Just to be sure, if President Obama demanded to do the same thing, there would be outrage and cries of a police state, and Obama coming to seize your guns, and Obama doing this. So to be clear, on so many levels, this is problematic that I don't even know if I have if I could parse all of the problems, because we still haven't even talked about the nature of the problem. We just acknowledged that there is a problem, but we haven't talked about the nature of the problem and the economic condition of Chicago. And then when you talk about the economic condition of Chicago, you can't take it in isolation without talking about the overall economic condition of the United States and how it's very easy to have the most wealthy living, owning blocks away or miles away from the most impoverished areas that you can imagine. I mean, Chicago, if you're downtown Chicago, is one of the most beautiful cities that you could be in. Or you go 20 minutes south, not even 20, you go 10 minutes south, and you see the most abject poverty that you've seen in a long time. So all of the layers of problems that could be addressed to actually be a solution, Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, says that get your shit together or else I'm coming to take over your city. The difficulty of the next 4 years is going to be trying to dissect the stupidity and the bullshit that's coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. Because now we no longer have the luxury of saying, oh, it's just a tweet, ignore it, don't talk about it. This is the man who actually makes policy, or not makes policy, but with executive orders he can make policy, but he influences the policy and sets the standard, and we no longer have the luxury of ignoring it. So we have to unpack the scenario. And when you unpack this threat of sending in the National Guard, A, it's going to make the problem worse. It's going to create an occupied city. B, it's not going to solve anything. C through Z rather, it does not address the problems of Chicago. It's just simply trying to use brute force. And who do you think is going to be on the receiving end of the brute force? It's maybe some criminals, right? But it's not just going to be criminals that are on the receiving end of this. It's going to be the citizens, the people who are not criminals, who are also going to be on the receiving end of this. Shit, if you can't get the police to understand the difference between they just pull over somebody because they're black, they're not going to distinguish, oh, I know you're in a gang, oh no, you're an okay guy. If you can't get the police to do that, do you actually think you're going to get the National Guard to do that? It's a hammer to an ant fight. It's a hammer, it's a bludgeoning tool when you need a scalpel. They don't want solutions, man. They just want Donald Trump to showboat. All right, caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Am I live?
You are live. This is you. What's up?
It's Umar from Brooklyn.
Umar, what's happening, man?
Oh, Ben. I'm a tad surprised at your comment of you don't think there's anything we can do. I mean, I agree with the 2018 thing. But what I think is that while progressives are in the midst of unpacking everything that's going on, all the stuff that every single progressive has been telling me was going to go on as Trump is president for the past 2 years, I think we need to unpack our power a little bit. And we need to readjust, in my opinion, how we are viewing things. Let's take social media. It's a tool. Marching, it's a tool. The tool leads to something. That cat, Julian, I can't remember his last name, the one who sends the boycott stuff out, the injustice boycott. There's a power behind a boycott. If a boycott is focused, okay, for instance, religious fundamentalists used to play this game in the 80s where a TV show would say something that offended them or play a song that offended them, and they would make this massive call to all the people they buy from. And all of a sudden, the show's in trouble, and there's this big controversy, and you're like, it's just John Lennon's Imagine. What? But he said, imagine there's no heaven. That's against religion. And that used to go on all the time. And that formed this weird silent group. They used to call them the moral majority.
Yeah, I know them well.
But those cats used to get around.
Yep.
I go back to the Montgomery boycott. The Montgomery boycott was not just a lesson in a bunch of black people boycotted one day. It changed the back of the bus policy overnight. This policy where you had to literally stand up if a white person came on, changed with one boycott in one city in one state. When we tweet things out, it's not just Donald Trump's tweets aren't just tweets. None of our tweets are just tweets, especially our influencers. See, there's a lot that can be done in the build of tours. Like, for instance, I keep insisting, if you're at these marches, is anyone taking an email list there? Is anyone, checking on the minor leaders to make sure that they don't end up in one of those Chicago black sites, to make sure if someone ends up in the healthcare, we keep tracking it? There's so much that can be done that we have the power to do because we, in fact, have the numbers. The one thing besides the symbolism, besides the feel-good, agree or disagree with feminists, agree or disagree, and we got to do something about that agree or disagree thing. Because these conservatives and KKK and neo-Nazis are lockstep.
Yeah.
They are on the same page. We are not. We're still arguing about, listen, a lot of progressives piss me off over the Hillary Clinton thing, but that's over now.
Yep.
Okay, I'm back on board with you guys. Okay, I didn't like that part, but you're going to get attacked whether you touted Hillary or not. We're all in this now.
Yep.
But we have to start. I'm insisting on. I got the problems, guys. You've been saying it to us for months. We got to start putting out pamphlets and solutions. And once again, in simple sound bites. The base does not understand the whole analysis of the deeper meaning of the deeper meaning. They know Obama, black president, spoke well. That's it. That's all they know. And we can't hammer them on it anymore. I'm so tired of hearing about Hillary. Okay, she did bad things. She is no longer, let's face it, she's not an issue at all, other than the Democratic Party who are going to coalesce into this crap with some weird normalization when we obviously see exactly what's going on. It's exactly what the fearmongers said, what you progressives have said, what every YouTube, everyone's been saying it. Now let's start moving towards, all right, what do we do about it?
Yep. I agree with everything you said, with one exception. To be clear, when I say there's nothing we can do, there's nothing that we can do to stop Donald Trump from passing XYZ legislation with the House behind him, with the Senate behind him. The only thing that everything example that you gave, I agree with. The boycotts, all those things work in the context that they have influence on, right? A boycott is easily ignored by legislators. They're insulated from that. The only thing these legislators are not insulated from is the political threat of losing their seat. And that's what we can do. And that's going to require more than just a national march. It's going to require targeted marches inside of the districts of vulnerable congressmen and congresswomen, and potentially flipping the balance of power in a district, right? If we organize large enough to actually take someone who's a Republican and comfortable in their seat and make them uncomfortable in their seat, then they start second guessing their votes, right? Then they start second guessing, right? We expressly let you know that we are doing this. We have 100,000 people in District 17 of Kentucky who are going to vote, not only vote against you, but those 100,000 people are going to organize even more people to make sure that you lose. That's quite literally the only thing that we can do right now is apply that type of pressure, right? But, you know, the boycotts and all those other things, that's economic pressure. But our politicians, here's one caveat, and I'll give you this, and I'm not even sure if this might be too fantastical, right? If we're able to organize boycotts large enough to threaten companies such that it starts threatening the donations that those companies give, then okay, that works. But short of that, your congressman, whoever, a no-name congressman, they don't care about the boycott because it's not a direct threat to what matters to them. What matters to them is re-election. And so that starts right now, right? I'm not saying wait to 2018, because if you wait to 2018, it's already too late. It starts right now, organizing such that we can put the pressure on, one, the most vulnerable politicians first, and then two, organize enough to make those who are comfortable in Republican-leaning districts. And hell, I'm saying Republican, but also some Democrats in these districts. We got to put pressure, electoral pressure, on them in their districts. So to me, that's the only thing that we can do. If we want to prevent, let me make it plain. Here it is. If you want to stop your congressman from voting on X legislation, you have to make him feel like he or she is going to lose their seat if they vote yes on this. Short of that, I don't see any action that we can take to stop a president and a Senate and a Congress who are all on the same page, same party, and they're passing all this legislation. That's all I'm saying. So thanks for the call, Umar. It is always a pleasure to speak to you. And we only have a few more minutes to cover a couple of other things, because the onslaught has not stopped with Donald Trump, right? So all night we're talking about Donald Trump and all the crazy shit that he's doing because he's Donald Trump. So many times I've got to recycle the picture. This is the same picture I had on 10 minutes ago. So Donald Trump is going one step further. He's going one step further with this lie about voter fraud. So let's say this at the beginning. You have you're more likely to get struck by lightning than to find voter fraud. You can find voter suppression, and you can find election fraud. What Donald Trump is going after is neither voter suppression nor election fraud. He's going after the fictitious man-bear pig of voter fraud. This idea that people are registering in multiple places, going around to multiple voting precincts to vote. That's what he's targeting. And according to, of course, to his tweets, he's saying, Donald Trump said that I will be asking for a major investigation into voter fraud, all caps, including those registered to vote in 2 states, those who are illegal, and even those registered to vote who are dead, many for a long time. Depending on the results, we will strengthen up voting procedures. So Trump is setting the stage. Now, before I even finish that thought, here's the freaking irony. Steve Bannon, his special assistant, right? The former editor of Breitbart. Steve Bannon himself is registered to vote in 2 different states. So if he's going to clean house starting with your special assistant to the president, Steve Bannon. Arrest him. That's what you want, right? That's the kind of draconian measures you're taking. But that's not what he wants, right? He's going after something that he'll never find, but that gives him room to continue to go after it because people believe. Like when I was at the Tea Party debate, the strangest thing was I was able to get all of these middle-aged and retiree white Americans to actually admit that racism was real in America. But you know what I could not get them to admit was not real? Voter fraud. They had pictures in their minds of people loading up vans of voters and taking them precinct by precinct by precinct and voting into the millions. I mean, I don't even know how to express that. It's almost unimaginable to me that people would believe that racism is real. People who have a vested interest in not believing it's real, but they can't believe, despite all of the evidence, that voter fraud doesn't exist in a significant fashion to swing an election. They swear that it happens by the millions, enough to swing in an actual election. So Trump's lawyers wrote that this was in response to petitions by Jill Stein. Okay. They said, quote, all available evidence suggests that the 2016 general election was not tainted by fraud or mistake. But they still want to pursue this. In Ohio, the Secretary of State, John Husted, a Republican, said that in an interview on yesterday that there was no evidence that voter fraud was happening on a large scale. Democrats obviously know that voter fraud is not happening on a large scale. There's no, quote, basis for the claim, according to Eduardo Cortez of Virginia. Alex Padilla, California state top election official, said free and fair elections are the benchmark of our democracy. And he's taken a jackhammer to it with his irresponsible tweets. Yes, but when this is stuck in the heads of his constituency, of his base, all he has to do is say that he's going after it and actually go after it. And even if they don't find anything, he's not going to be satisfied. He's still going to stand on his bully pulpit. Here's the irony, the glaring irony that everybody's wondering. He's looking for voter fraud in an election that he won. So that should tell you he's not going to be looking for voter fraud in the states that he won. He's looking for voter fraud in states that he lost as a means of explaining why he lost those states. He's going after voter fraud because it enhances the Republican position when it comes to elections. Voter suppression, which is very real, is a fundamental tool of the Republican Party. The GOP Congress, the GOP chairman of the Pennsylvania State Party, who admitted on video, and I'll try to find it, but he admitted that their voter suppression laws or their voter ID laws were going to help them win elections. This is 100% their move to win more elections, guised as protecting our democracy. So anyway, Sean Spicer, who, I'm getting tired of this dude. He said, quote, the president does believe that voter fraud exists. It's a belief that he's maintained for a while, a concern that he has about a concern that he has about voter fraud. because they had moved and were citizens. And when they were, these are examples. He said because people moved and they were able to vote in multiple places, or they were not citizens, or they had since died. And then he quoted some study that said, that confirmed this. But listen, I think in the actual investigation, let me give you this number. I think it was 1 out of a billion ballots since 2000, between 2000 and 2014. It was like maybe a handful of examples out of a billion. I mean, less than 10 out of a billion examples of voter fraud. But this is the ghost that we have to, actually run after. And the reason we have to run after it is because Donald Trump believes, and his audience needs to believe it. And this is actually I'm going to play the audio and the video of what's his name? Terzai. This is Terzai from Pennsylvania. This is him admitting in 2012 that the voter ID law will allow Mitt Romney to win. Listen in. Actually, 2 seconds. Let me fix something here because I definitely want to hear this audio. Interesting. Oh, don't think I could pull the audio. But anyway, we'll get that spliced in. Owen, drop that in there for me for the replay. I'll drop the link inside of the chat room, and you guys can go check it out. Sorry to the people on Spreaker. Folks, this has been an onslaught of shit that Trump is doing to America. I don't think I've even gotten to the story about Germany. I'll deal with that another day. Germany has put an end to a law that forbade people from criticizing politicians, in the backdrop of Republican politicians here in the United States trying to make it illegal to actually yell at politicians. I don't want to leave you in a note where you feel like you can't do anything. I think it's really important for us not to feel like we can't do anything. This is what we have to do. We 100% have to organize in a meaningful way. We 100% have to have boots on the ground. It's almost to the point where I don't really care what organization you organize with, right? Because you'll get a part of an organization and you might find out that organization is not worth its weight, all right? It's probably, it might be messed up, it might be jacked up, but the action of you getting up and getting involved will at least expose you to the things that are necessary that need to be done for us to make this happen. So even if you get your feet wet with an organization, and the reason I say this is there's organizations that are jumping up everywhere, all over the country. They're like droves of organizations that all want to do this organizing to push back and to resist against Trump. I can't tell you which one you should go join. I can't do that because I haven't vetted them all. There are too many of them. But I will tell you this, if you get involved and you start learning what you can do, even if you find out that the organizations you're part of was crap, you would have gathered enough skills, enough information, enough background, enough strategies for you to go to the next organization and do it better or start your own organization. But that's all we can do. And again, to drive this home and to beat a dead horse, it 100% has to be targeted against elected officials, starting with those who are threatened and then making it large enough to get those that are comfortable so that they know if they make this vote on X, then they will lose their seat. That's the only leverage that we have. And that's going to require massive organization. I mean, massive boots on the ground. And there are people out there doing the work. Shout out to all the people and all the organizations that are trying to do this. Some of you are good. Some of you are not so good. Some of you are great. Some of you are not going to be here in a month. I can't tell you which ones to go to. All I will say is go find out, get involved, and make this happen. And we'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.